Hi everyone and welcome to your screencast for PPD2. This one is on influencing and it's taking a closer look at behaviours and skills of influencing. This one's linked to your learning outcome, which is examine and reflect on the influence that you have on those around you. So what do we mean by influencing? About getting others to do something willingly without the use of formal power. So obviously within sort of job situations or even sort of your home life situations, there's power and there's relationships that involve power. So it's it's getting people to do things willingly without them thinking if I won't do it there'll be a negative consequence. So if you've got somebody who's doing something just because the line manager tells them to do something, that's not influencing. It's actions which seek to have someone else modify their behaviour, feelings, thoughts, ideas, attitudes, and beliefs. So it's an action that's trying to get someone to change them kind of things. Now, when you're thinking about that, particularly the ideas, attitudes, and beliefs, and even thoughts, that's not an easy thing to do. So when you're trying to have that influence over somebody, it's very much about your interpersonal skills and the relationship that you've got with that person. Any things we do or don't do, the way we are or are not, that somehow have an effect on the way another person behaves, feels, thinks, has ideas, attitudes, and beliefs. So it could be the very simple or smallest thing that you do that could have a massive impact on somebody and how their feelings and ideas and attitudes. So when you're going out to see patients and you walk into their house, if you just walk in, let's say, and don't offer to take your shoes off, or if you just walk in and call them by their first name without asking them first what they prefer to be called, that could set the tone for the rest of the assessment. When you walk, another example is if you continuously walk into lectures late, what kind of impression do you think that's leaving, and what effect do you think that's having on the way other people behave and think and build their perception of you? So it's really important, and I'm really obviously conscious of this as a tutor because I'm in the spotlight all the time. So it's really important that I'm constantly reflecting on my behaviour and the impact that I may or may have not had on others. And that's why I'm constantly seeking feedback. So other things we might mean by influence. Oh, sorry, I've done that one. So influencing style choices. So this links to influencing style choices links to communication style, because you've got assertive behaviour. So this is where somebody asks clearly for what they want without putting somebody down. So assertive behaviour is when somebody can assert themselves whilst also respecting, other people's opinions as well. Aggressive behaviour, this is where you demand what you want, regardless of whether it puts somebody else down or makes somebody feel bad. The whole point of aggressive behaviour is to get your point across, and it doesn't really matter if you hurt people in the process. And passive behaviour is an unwilling or reluctance to ask for what you want. So you're not putting your needs or others' needs first. So it's a continuum of styles. So we've got passive, aggressive, and assertive. With somebody who's passive, they're constantly thinking that somebody else matters more than them, and what you want matters more than what I want. So they're constantly putting themselves below everybody else. What generally happens with this kind of communication style is they're a bit like a coiled spring. So they'll keep it in, keep it in, keep it in, keep it in, and they'll get to a point where they've not asserted themselves, they've kept all the feelings and thoughts bottled in, that they just reach pressure point, and then they become either passive aggressive or straight into aggressive, and everything just comes flooding out in a really incoherent and a style that's really not going to be received very well by others. So assertive is where I matter and you matter, and what we both want matters to me. So it's about, it's taking on board your own feelings and thoughts, but having that, you know, respect for others and letting people know that they matter and that they're listened to. Aggressive is I matter more than you, and I want what I want, and what I want matters more than what you want. So like I said in the previous slide, it's literally just about the main thing there is getting their point across, and you know, that's all that matters. So obviously, as a therapist, we want to sit within the assertive part, you know, with our clients, with their relatives, and with our team members as well. This is a communication style that will get the outcome that you want as an occupational therapist. And I just want you now just to pause this screencast for a second. I want you to log into your Pebble Pad and I want you to write a reflection on when you've observed or you yourself have demonstrated one of these styles. So either passive, assertive, aggressive, or passive aggressive. You can do this as a structured reflection or video yourself talking about it. So if you just pause now, log into your Pebble Pad, spend about 30-45 minutes writing that reflection. This will be really good for your personal and professional development assignment and can be used as an asset within that. So hopefully now you've sat and done your reflection. I want just to think about what potentially could affect how we communicate. After I've talked about this, you might want to go in and just tweak your reflection a little bit because it might stimulate some more thoughts on that. So like I said, we've got these three styles: assertive, passive and aggressive, and it is a continuum of styles. So things that might affect styles of communication is if somebody's got really low self-worth. Generally, you find that people with really low self-worth tend to communicate quite passively. So they're actually, like I say, they're putting themselves at the lower end of the importance scale every time. Feelings of helplessness. So when you could link this to locus of control, someone with this style is a very external locus of control. So the reason that I didn't do very well in the assignment is because the assignment brief wasn't very good. So they're not taking any responsibility for themselves. Confidence is a big part of communication, and people with low confidence tend to sit more on the passive style. People with high, you can have too much confidence, then that's when you can dip into the aggressive. You can have just the right amount of confidence, and that's when you're getting more towards the assertive. Ability to show your own vulnerabilities. I think this really ties into communication, particularly assertive people. Generally, those people that are willing to say, do you know what, I made a mistake, and I'm willing to do, you know, to reflect on that and do something about it. Assertive people are very open to being vulnerable. High self-worth and self-esteem. Again, this links to assertive people. Generally, people who are assertive have, you know, they have a strong sense of identity, a strong sense of what their values and beliefs are, and that links into their self-worth and self-esteem. Stress can impact, that could sit on the passive side as well as the aggressive side. So you tend to find when people start to behave or communicate passively or aggressively or even passive aggressive, it's usually because they're feeling quite stressed. Something called imposter syndrome, that's something that can happen with communication, and people get that feeling that they are in a role potentially that they feel that could get taken away from them, so they end up sort of fluffing the feathers a little bit and their ego just to make them feel like they should be where they are. Competitiveness, so that's a massive part of communication style. When people get really competitive, that can affect how they communicate. Distracted attention, so if somebody's mind's somewhere else or they can't focus, that can affect how they communicate. And an inability to empathise, again, that can affect somebody's ability to communicate how they feel or even understand how the other person's feeling as well. So we're thinking about communication styles and why people maybe communicate how they are. It could be due to sort of the situation that they're dealing as well. So we can link it to being reactive. So when you feel you have less control over my reaction to the situation, and being responsive. So this is where you choose how you want to act in response to a situation. So, you know, we could link what's currently happening out there in the world is people may feel a sense of a lack of control because of what's happening, and that'll make them feel, you know, tie into them feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. But if you've got somebody who's sort of more on the assertive side, they're actually making a conscious choice of how they want to react to the situation. So when you're thinking about why people might be communicating how in the manner they are, good to think of it in that kind of reactive or responsive way. So with the assertive person, they would be expressing their opinion, stating their needs, and applying. Well, this is where we start to get into the aggressive, is where it's applying a bit of pressure. But in being assertive, you do have to have that little bit of pressure. But there's a fine line, as you can see, it's starting to cross over there. So that's a push kind of approach. With assertive behaviour, you need a push-pull. So it's really important when you're communicating that there's elements of push, but also an element of pull. The pull would require active listening, drawing out, building relationships. So that's the pull. So when you're communicating assertively, you need a bit of push and a bit of pull. So that's the end of the screencast. Again, I want you to get back into your reflection and maybe tweak it a little bit, because we've added to hopefully added to some of the thoughts and evaluations and analysis that you might have, because we thought about what can affect people's communication. I'm going to put a Padlet after this just for the discussions and questions. So if you pop some on there, and I can go back and we can have a bit of collaboration through that. I hope this has been useful for you. Again, you know, this is something I would really like feedback on, so you can pop that on the Padlet as well with the discussions and questions. I hope you're all okay, and please keep in touch.